Nini. Hello and welcome to the Kemetic How-To Guide for Egyptian Pagans and Kemetics. I'm your host, Sharon. So, Christmas Eve, my husband and a good friend of ours and I get together. And, of course, I wish my husband a Merry Christmas. When our friend came over, he's a Roman Reconstructionist, so I told him Happy Sol Invictus. And he said, well, happy ancient Egyptian holiday that happens to correspond with the solstice. And we all got a laugh out of that. But, it's an interesting point. Um, Christians obviously are celebrating Christmas. Um, if you're Wiccan, then you've got Yule. But what if you're more Kemetic Reconstructionist and, it's Christmas time and somebody wants to wish you a happy holiday? What do we talk about? Well, there's several possibilities that you can choose from. Of course, I talk a little bit about holidays. I have to plug it in my book, Following the Sun. And actually, I'm going to explain a couple of things here very briefly that you can understand a little better if you read the book. But there's also some other things that I've found out that, I can tell you about here. For starters, to explain a little bit about holidays in the Egyptian calendar, I have to tell you, well, how did their calendar start? Remember that their new year started when the dog star, Sirius, or they called it Self-Dude, rose above the horizon just before dawn. This happened in ancient times around July 18th or 19th. And there are some folks like myself that observe the new year as July 18th. Now, there are other groups that use the modern rising of Sirius because keep in mind, our whole solar system is not stationary. It's floating through the Milky Way, and so things have changed, and the positions of stars and constellations have changed over the years and over the millennia. And so things like the rising of Sirius still occurs, but not at the same time of the year. And nowadays it's closer to August 1st, or some groups, I think, do it during that first week of August. So that kind of pushes your dates, 2 weeks later. I kind of think of it as the difference between Roman Catholic and Orthodox holidays because, for most of the world, and that they take it from the Roman Catholic calendar, Christmas is December 25th, but the Eastern Orthodox Church actually observes it a little bit later. And their Easter is done a little bit differently too. So it's kind of like that sort of thing. But anyway, you had the first season was the season of inundation. That lasted 4 months. And then what's wintertime for us was the planting season and the growing season in Egypt. And the first month of Peret, of emergence, was called Taib. If you look in a lot of books that use the Greek names, it's Tibi, or Tybi, however you would say it, Tybi. But it comes from Taib. And that month ended in, again, if you're going by, a July start date, then Taib ends in the middle of December. If you're going 2 weeks later, then that means it would end more like the end of December. I actually make a calendar for myself, and I'm trying to mess around with Lulu and see if I can get one that I can actually publish. But as you can see for mine, you have Taib and then Makir, which is the next month. And that would start somewhere around about December 15th. Or again, if you add 2 weeks to account for, the modern date, then it would be around New Year's. Well, there was one holiday that the Egyptians celebrated at the end of Taib, and that was the Feast of Mut. And this was done in the area of Thebes. And one of the things that they would do is they would take the statue of Mut and they would put her on a sacred boat and float her out in the Asheru, the sacred lake at the Temple of Mut. And there was an expression for that, Mutimwia. That means Mut in her bark, her wia, that was her sacred bark. And that became a very common name for women. In fact, the mother of King Amenhotep III was named Mutimwia. And so I don't know what kind of equivalent you would consider it in our language, but that was because the Feast of Moot was a big celebration in the area of Thebes. But you had other things too. The Cairo calendar, which is a calendar that was found, it dates from later in Egyptian history, but it had dates for pretty much every day of the year. There was something that was going on. And we have a few clues about festivals that come from it. And one of them was a reference to a Feast of Neat that actually occurred on what would be December 25th, if you adjusted it to our calendar. And the forecast for that day, because it was kind of like a horoscope calendar, it gave a forecast for each day, whether it would be lucky or unlucky. And that day was very lucky and said you would see good from the hands of Neat, who, of course, is a creator goddess. So that's a couple of possibilities that you could link up with Christmas time. Christmas, Yule, that whole time period. There's another one that actually you could, depending on how you observe your calendar, how you counted it out, it could either be, in early January, or you could have it actually closer to Imbolc, if you wanted to kind of tie it in with that. But it's called the Feast of Lifting the Sky, and it was a Feast of Ptah. And somehow or other they got Ptah confused with Shu. Shu, of course, is the god that, he's holding up the sky. He's air and sunlight. He's the son of Ra, the creator. Ptah is another creator god, so somehow they got combined together for this feast, and it also marks the mid-year, which of course for them it was a little bit later than the end of our year. But you could, in theory, take it and push it to December if you wanted to. There's another one that you could use it either for a New Year's festival, as in secular New Year, end of December, beginning of January, or if you wanted to push it to Christmas, / Yule, you could do that, and that's the Feast of Victory. And now, if you're a follower of Set, then that's not a very friendly festival for you, because that's the festival that they celebrated down in Edfu, and at the Temple of Horus, and that was to celebrate Horus basically annihilating Set in the form of a hippopotamus. So it kind of depends on which, what parts of the mythology you feel closest to, and what you, work with, because that may or may not, be a good holiday for you to have. I personally find it a really good thing to do at the beginning of the year to kind of get rid of all the, negative vibes from the last year. And what's kind of weird was we did the beginning of 2010, we did something to get rid of negativity, and I wrote down something about stress over my job, and a few months later I quit that job. So the execration, things that you can do for that can get to be pretty powerful. So those are different possibilities that you have for holidays around this time of year. It's not an exact fit, but it's close enough that you've got something to go on. So if you want to know more about how the calendar worked and the different seasons and everything, I lay all of that out. I'll even see if I can find the page. There we go. I've got modern dates and the ancient dates, roughly in my book. So that's one way you can learn about it. But if you can't get it just yet, that's cool. Go to my website. I have a calendar page that I've worked out there, and I'm going to put a link actually to a Coptic calendar, so you can kind of see the, what things, have held over, and, some other things like that. I'll have that scroll across the bottom of the screen. And I've gotten a lot of requests for other web resources, so I'm going to try and get some more of those together for you guys. And holidays are over as I'm recording this, but the beauty of YouTube is you could be watching this and it be, November 2011 or 2012 or whatever, and so this might help you, with the upcoming holidays. So good luck with that. Hope this gives you something to add to your Egyptian pagan or Kemetic practice. And this is Sharon wishing you Sanepti.